We're back on 535. Joining us now, Congressman Josh Gottheimer, Democrat from North Jersey.
Thanks for having me.
All right.
I'm excited.
What was the very first bill that you got signed into law?
So I was in Congress a couple months. So I started got here January 2017. Interesting time, right? Beginning of the first Trump administration, and very focused on helping veterans. And I got an amendment passed to help post 9/11 veterans at the VA, because one of the biggest problems was there weren't people who were younger that younger veterans could relate to at the VA. We knew this was an issue. It talked about it on the campaign trail, and so we got it done.
How tough was it? What were the processes that you had to use as a freshman Democrat working in a Republican House with a Republican Senate and a Republican administration?
Well, you probably know this. I came in and I started working with Republicans right away, working across the aisle. I believe in that, still do. And so I started making friends, both in my freshman class, because they do a lot of orientation together, of folks on the other side, people like Mike Gallagher, who's not here, but others, and went right to work. And I found some Republicans to work with, and we're able to get it done.
Why has the place broken down so much that you are stuck in a situation where you're at the last second, not even the last second, because we're already 40 some days past on this issue, that it's passing in the dark of night, literally at 3 a.m. Why broadly? Talk about what's gone wrong here in almost 10 years you've been here.
It's, people when I got here said it was broken compared to how it had been. And I worked here years ago. So it is, there are a few major things that have accelerated, right? Social media keeps accelerating, as well as obviously not just you had cable news, but now you have shows like this. You have lots more content for people to be able to weigh in on different issues. And that's changed the velocity, a pace of information. And because of social media and the way it's structured, we all know that people are broken into smaller niche communities than ever before. So people get worked up all over the place. It makes it harder for them to come together and find common ground. And the incentive structure for actually finding agreement and governing the way we used to, right? Meaning you got to give a little bit to get, right? Take 80% of a solution and get the other 20% the next time. It's moved much more for many members to an all or nothing, solution every time, and so they want everything. And it's hard to get everything if you try to get an agreement. And and then what happens? You get attacked if you give a little, you get attacked for it. So and then you've got the entertainment problem. You've got people who are, I would say to new members when I sit down with them and say, you got to make a decision. Do you want to be a workhorse or do you want to be a show horse? They're you got to decide. It doesn't mean you can't come on and talk to the media, and of course you should. But is that what's driving your decision every day? What's on you put on Twitter, or is what drive you like getting a piece of legislation across the finish line and being willing to sit down and build relationships with your colleagues across the aisle?
How many of the various new media outlets, the new ways of cable TV, how many of those give you a platform to actually talk for a few minutes about your favorite policy positions?
Very few. You don't really, if there's not a fight, you all are usually not interested. You're interested in the fight. You can talk about policy if there's a fight. And that's when you can get reporters somewhat interested. I've had many times where I've been working on an agreement behind the scenes for months on a big piece of legislation, and we have a breakthrough, and I'm like, oh, this is amazing. This Republican and I worked together, we got this done. And a reporter will say to me, that's incredible, you were able to pull that off? I'm like, yeah, you want to talk about that? They're like, no, it's very process policy oriented. Right? Like, no, it's great, but it's much more interesting about who you want to insult.
We are here to help change that.
Yeah.
You've got your platform. What's the first bill you want to work on in a Democratic Congress if you guys win back the majority? What's the first thing you want to work on, policy-wise?
So I'm co-chair of a new commission on AI, and I've been spending hours every day on this. Last Congress, there was a bipartisan committee on AI. the speaker and the majority decided not to re-up that committee. And so we decided to go ahead and do it ourselves on our side to actually have a perspective on something that's affecting really every aspect of life and will continue to, and that's only accelerating, right from energy policy to education to deep fakes to water to energy to like pretty much to workforce issues, you name it, to healthcare. Like our lives are going to continue to change because of AI, and Congress has a significant role to play in all that, so you're going to see a major package early in the Congress of smart AI legislation.
Who are some of your partners?
We've got from the bipartisan way, it's all over the place. From the Albernotti, who was the chair of the AI committee last Congress. I work with Mike Lawler and others, but also plenty of Democrats. And Ted Lieu and Valerie Foushee and I are the three co-chairs of this commission. We had a meeting this morning, actually. It is, to me, incredibly important that we actually have a perspective on something that is going to continue to have a massive impact on our lives and affect nearly everything that we do around here.
I hear a lot about AI regulation. It's a huge topic here on the Hill. Specifically, what will this legislation do? If you can go into some examples or details that we could see.
Sure. I mean, I'll tell you like things that are on the table without revealing like where we are and everything. And I've got a bunch of bills on myself on everything from energy to water to workforce issues to retraining. But let me just say, broadly speaking, the big topics, of course, are preemption that you talked about a lot. Should there be a federal framework, or should this be state by state? What kind of accountability and transparency measures should there be when a platform like ChatGPT or when Anthropic comes out with a new rev? Like, what kind of testing should there be? Should it be a centralized testing? What about deepfakes? There's been some legislation passed and now law, like to be able to take down a deepfake. But what about, should there be any watermarks required? Like, so that you know something is genuine about you guys, somebody spoofing you, or an elected official, or doing something that was, obviously a child predator thing, and other things that could be, some of the worst stuff that can be done. It's been out there, right? What are you going to do about that? Then you have energy policy. Your utility bills are up 45% in the last 20 months in New Jersey, right? That's insane. As more data centers are built, like, should AI platforms and companies, should they be responsible for producing their own energy or paying for it and making sure that your bills don't go up? What about education? How's that going to change? Well, and healthcare, there's amazing things that can happen with healthcare. We can look at scans of Paul and say, oh, we see something here, but that there's 1,000 other people who have the same exact makeup, and that's okay, actually, what I see there, right? Or
I'm really unique. I'm one of a kind. I don't think there's 1,000 like me.
One of a kind. And so, you think, so then there's agents, right? There's agents all over the place. Do the agents work for you? Or is that agent actually working for United Airlines and it's their agent? Are they actually looking for the best price for you? Or are they they're looking at your behavior and saying, actually, I should afford to pay a little bit more. Let's charge a little bit more. Or really, you need to go on that flight so badly because we're looking at the rest of your life and know that you have to travel. So I could probably charge you a little bit more. So, is that right? And then things like, if you get advice online, on financial advice online, does that agent have a fiduciary responsibility to give you the best advice, or is it working for Charles Schwab and thinking about, right? And right, so you could think about all the various things that come up just in that space, right? And all the privacy issues that come along, and so there's a million, and then all of the work issues, right? What are we going to do? Are there going to be enough jobs for everyone? Are there new kinds of jobs? What kind of different training should we have? So those are just a few of the ones that we're thinking about, and we have to have a perspective on that.
Can you speak to optimism you might have about maybe things changing around here when it comes to not focusing on the actual policy issues that matter and it being about politics? Are you optimistic that things could change at some point?
I'm hopeful things can change.
Yeah.
Well, I
especially
helped
for
start
something
up
like
this
this
group called the Problem Solvers Caucus. You guys know, for years ago when I first got to Congress. Now I'm vice chair after serving as many terms as a chairman, and because I really believe that we still need to figure out how to work together and get things done. We still have things that we actually have to do. right? Now, the problem is everything usually now is with a gun to our head and everything is last minute, but there's still other things like permitting reform and other issues that I think we can find good bipartisanship around and solutions. And we have to be able to use those muscles. And so, yeah, I still am optimistic because I still do it. I mean, I just worked for the last month, and barring some things that, like change at the last minute, we had some really strong agreement about where we need to go. And that's because of relationships. And I can pick up the phone and talk to a bunch of Republican senators and Democratic senators. And same thing here. And I'm hopeful that enough new members of Congress who come in take the time to build those relationships and don't just want to be entertaining, right? And I don't knock people. That's their choice. They can do what they want. I'm still old school that way and believe in the Constitution, our responsibilities, and of what we got to get done. And so I'm hopeful, but I'll tell you, there's less incentive these days, unfortunately, to do the kind of stuff that I do than to fight.
What was your first job and how much did you get paid?
Well, I'll tell you my dad had a store. So all growing up, we worked in the store. I worked in the store behind the counter, selling like candy and toothpaste and that kind of stuff. And I don't really remember getting paid, but he paid me like in my allowance. I don't exactly remember what my allowance was because it changed over time. But so I used to get an allowance, and then he started paying me like as I got older a little bit.
Did you ever threaten a strike against your?
But and then he helped me plenty, and put food on the table, and so whatever they needed, I would do. Whatever my dad needed, I would do, but my next favorite job was scooping ice cream at Ben and Jerry's, which, by the way,
My sister did that.
oh really, it's the greatest job.
Ben and Jerry's too.
Yes, it's hard. It's hard, but everyone is happy when they're getting ice cream. Like people are just happy, and I was obsessed.
Favorite
with
flavor?
It. Obsessed with it.
That's a great question.
That's a great question. Cherry Garcia.
All right. Well, that's really liberal for a moderate centrist Democrat.
Do they make any more moderate flavors?
I
don't think they have a moderate flavor.
Not from Vermont.
Do they? They don't have like a mansion marshmallow or something.
All right, everybody. This is 5:35. Josh
you.
Gottheimer, thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me. I
Thank you.
appreciate it.